Hi everyone, so I'm Kieran, I'm the channel activation lead, so I work within the commercial licensing team, so Anna, who's obviously helped set up these events, and Hayley, who you guys saw at the start. Our job essentially is to land what we call the modern commerce strategy, which is essentially our new way of doing business in the market and what our strategy is for the next sort of 5 years, and how we're trying to make it easier to do business with Microsoft, because as I'm sure you'll all agree, we're not the easiest to do business with at the moment in terms of our licensing agreements. So just before I kick off with going through the actual strategy, just as a show of hands, how many people have actually already heard snippets or have seen the modern commerce strategy that we're working towards? Okay, good. Okay, so this is all new to a lot of you, which is good. This is what we're trying to do. So I guess the first thing I kind of want to cover is why are we making this change and why are we kind of designing this roadmap and working towards this new goal? And I think this slide probably highlights it the best for me because it shows how we do business now and how we go to market. And as you can see, we've got a number of different offers, and we've got about, actually, when you add up all the unique different offers that we have by different segments, by different countries, we have actually 30 plus licensing agreements, all with their own go-to-markets, all with their own offer catalogues, and all with their own partner types, which often means the customer's decision is actually being driven by the wrong thing. It's not being driven by value, but rather where they can get a certain product or how much it's going to cost them and where it's cheaper in certain aspects, or again, which partner they're working with. And our aim is to simplify this and kind of make this a bit easier for that. One of the biggest feedbacks we hear from our customer surveys is the fact that, go figure, is the fact that our licensing is really complex and that the customers don't actually understand all the ways that they can purchase through Microsoft. So this whole strategy is about modernizing this and actually making us easier to do business with and putting value back as the heart of the reason why the customer's buying through us, and also driving their decision and how they buy. So this is what we're working towards. So this is the modern commerce strategy kind of in a nutshell. And there's kind of three key areas to this, and the first bit is the modern commerce platform, and what we mean by that is actually having the availability of all of our new services and what we call modern offers available across all of our programs. So actually when a customer buys, the experience they receive from that product is no different whether they're buying through any of our go-to-market. So their decision is not being driven by the fact that product's available through one program or the fact it looks like a certain way through one program. A good example, if any of the people in the room know, was OMS. So up until recently, you could buy OMS bundles on EA, which were cheaper, and they were kind of a componentized way of buying OMS, which often meant that customers, even if CSP was correct for them, they'd end up buying through enterprise agreement because that was the way they could get these OMS bundles because it wasn't available on CSP. And then recently, back in July, we actually removed the bundles, so now they are completely even each way. So the first examples of this modern commerce platform and these modern offers was Azure Reserve Instances, which I'm sure a lot of you in the room are aware of, and Louise is going to cover this later and go through actually how you buy those. But the key thing is that from a customer experience perspective, that reserve instance looks no different if they're buying through CSP, enterprise agreement, or direct off the website. So no matter which way or which go-to-market they choose to purchase through, they're going to see the same experience. The three go-to-markets that we're going to focus on, so moving away from this 30-plus program which we've had before, which is very complex, is there's three key motions. There's our partner-assisted motion, which is CSP, which everyone in the room, I'm guessing, is obviously up and running with, is the reason you guys are here. So Partner Assist is going to be the key focus for our value added, so that is the CSP program. We're going to bring more offers to that, more modern offers, and make it more breadth so that actually it can become a very good option against our other programs. Self-service, direct on the website, is not going anywhere. It's our retail 100% price with a very limited amount of support, so we really expect that to still play in the 1 to 2 seat organisations where they just need a quick purchase and a quick turnaround. And then the third option is Microsoft Assisted, which is enterprise agreements. So enterprise agreements aren't going anywhere, but they will be modernised as we start to look towards the future, and we will look to put them on par with CSP as well. And I guess, as James just mentioned, the key really here is that we're trying to bring these three motions back so that it's all focused around value add. And that's what you guys as partners bring to us, is the fact that you can provide those managed services to help drive that consumption, land those products, and help the customers actually start using it. And these three motions will support that motion going forward as we look to modernise. So what I would say is when you guys see updates such as things like modern pricing, which you must have seen recently, which came in October, we are working towards this, and this is kind of our goal for the next 4 to 5 years. So everything you see from us in terms of updates that come in will be working towards the aim of these three motions with value add at the heart of them. Cool. The second part to this, and I'm just going to touch on this, is the change we're making to our actual agreement structure. So at the moment, if you purchase, I'm sure a lot of you are aware, if you purchase through any one of those 30 plus programs, you have to go for a written paper trail with a new agreement form with amendments attached to that. And you have to do that every time you want to buy through a new one of these programs. So it quite often means, and a lot of our customers purchase through numerous programs, they'll actually end up signing very similar terms to the agreement they've signed before. But again, they have to do this signing process, which obviously slows down the sales cycle, and obviously means that you can't actually drive that consumption in that customer as you should be effectively, because it's all about this written process. So the aim here is consolidating these agreements into one Microsoft partner agreement, which I won't touch on too much, that's more for procurement, but the Microsoft customer agreement for me is the key one here. We're actually going to have one agreement which has all of the key terms that any customer agrees to across all of these programs and allows them to purchase through any of these programs. And what they do essentially, and I hate this kind of way of explaining it, but quite often people will say it's like layering a cake. You add on the additional amendments you need for an electronically acknowledging. So there's only one actual physical written process involved in this customer agreement. The idea being that once a customer's signed that agreement, they're free to purchase through any of these agreements. The good news is we will enable abilities for you guys to be able to see these amendments through Partner Center as time goes on and we develop the portals. So you won't get in conflict where if a customer says they're a non-profit, for example, you have to then go get proof from Microsoft, you have to send the customer back. You'll actually have an online repository where you can see all of the amendments they've accepted or electronically acknowledged. So you'll be able to see quite clearly if a customer is non-profit or academic or if they're set by certain terms. So just to give you an example, well, I'll go through it in a second. Just to talk actually about the portals. I think I've moved the slides around slightly on this. But just talk about actually how we're modernising our portals to actually kind of support this new motion of modern commerce. We're going to move to actually work with one portal for field, one portal for partner, and one portal internally, one portal to customer, sorry. And I think this is probably something that we've talked about for years, about how we're modernising. Any of those people in the room who remember MPSA, we talked about how we were going to modernise that into one portal, and we never quite got there. But actually now we've put a hell of a lot of investment into Partner Center for that to become the partner portal going forward. So as we start to retire a lot of our legacy programs, moving towards these 3 ways to buy, what we will start to do is actually backfill that agreement information into Partner Center. So as long as the customer allows you to see that information, you will be able to make a strategic decision and assist the customer in which one of our 3 modern motions they will then purchase through. We're also going to have the customer portal, which we call Store for Business. It is available if you Google it, you can see it, but it's in a very, very light format at the moment. It's for those buying direct off the website, but they will essentially see a mirror image of what you guys see in Partner Center. So they'll be able to see all of their licensing entitlement in one place to manage it all from this one portal. It looks very similar to Office 365 admin portal, and it will have features such as user allocation, license, being able to deploy licensing through that portal. But the key thing here is actually having a one license position through one portal, so the customer doesn't have to log into 5, 6 different portals, remember passwords. If someone leaves the organization, they then lose access to licenses they might already have. This should fix that problem. So as any of you might have already noticed, we've started moving MPN into Partner Center, so that was kind of our first step, and those features have started to roll over. And as we start to retire the programs in the not too distant future, we will also start to release the information for those legacy agreements as well in that portal. Just to touch on from a field perspective, so Microsoft Internal, we will also have a portal which should help us work more effectively with you guys so that we're not actually struggling around to find that information, holding information back from you, having to call you guys to contact. Well, actually, so we can start working strategically with you so we can see exactly what you guys are doing with the customer and you guys can see what we're doing with the customers as well. So that trying to solidify that relationship. As with these modern portals, a lot of you in the room, I'm sure, would have started working on your APIs or already do work on your APIs and have designed your own portal web front. All of these services that we bring to Partner Center will be available through API in the future. So the key thing here is that all of that great work you guys are doing and investing in the portal at the moment will only get better as the time goes on. You will be able to put your own web front on all of our Microsoft services from A to Z, all of that license information, everything you can do from a Microsoft perspective will be available through those APIs. So you guys can really start tying in your managed services into your own portal and linking into all of the services that we have available as Microsoft. And I just wanted to touch quickly just to kind of give you kind of a more of an overview of what the Microsoft Customer Agreement, because I think this slide highlights it actually quite well in terms of what the agreement looks like. I mean, there's two examples here which I think are really good examples. We've got example one, which is a US customer buying Azure, and example two, which is a French customer who is purchasing Office 365, and they're also an academic organisation. So as you can see, the core terms between the two are identical. All we're doing is layering in those terms that are specific to them. So you can see that we have academic eligibility for the French customer, there's France-specific terms, EU-specific terms, but again, those core terms are exactly the same. And to add to these agreement, all they do is they electronically acknowledge through the process. And we will add that kind of functionality to the APIs as we go along as well. In terms of roadmap, so just touching on things that we've already launched for Modern Commerce and things that are coming on the roadmap. So quite a lot has happened in the last few months, I'm sure you'll agree. So we obviously launched Azure RI and software subscriptions on CSP. That's the start of our software on CSP. We will start to bring more software to that in a modernised variant. So I think Louise is going to touch on that later, what they look like, so you guys will go into that in more detail. We obviously had the Dynamics 365 Spring release, which brought with it, just as a very high level, because I'm by no means a Dynamics expert, but brought us Business Central and the marketing SKU as well, and Sales Professional. Non-for-profit was also added in CSP. That is an ever-changing license list, so that will keep being updated. I know there are offers which currently aren't available through non-for-profit. I get that raised to me quite a lot, but we are committed to bringing more offers to that, so that will be continued to branch outwards. We also had the modern pricing updates which have landed just in October the 1st, so we're obviously starting to deal with that now and work with that. Modern Perpetual is on a software pilot at the moment, so this is license only, no software assurance. You pay up front, you own the license that you've purchased, that version. That is currently under pilot with some of our top indirect partners, but should be coming in the new calendar year. So we're due to launch that then as well, so that should give a very good option against open. Things that are going to be talked about later, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. SQL database, reserve instances is being added literally, I think it's just been added this month. There's also the Dynamics 365 October release, which you guys are going to have a lovely long session about later, I believe. And then looking to the future, things that we've got on the not too distant roadmap are the modern partner agreement, the modern customer agreement, which we've just talked about. We're due to start launching that out soon. And also, like I touched on earlier, the modern software. So extending that so the full catalog is available so that we can then begin retiring our legacy programs. So that was everything from my perspective. Was there any questions about the modern commerce strategy or about offers we're adding, roadmap?
Licensing.
Obviously, I'm boring and no one wants to listen to my bit.
Kieran,
Yes.
what's the latest on committed offers?
In CSP,
Yeah.
so in respect of buying up front for,
It was on the slide.
so like reserve instances, you mean?
No, committed offers
Which?
were kind of separate things. At the bottom of the previous slide.
Oh.
Offer specific terms. I was wondering what the latest was.
Yeah, so this is about actually having specific things for CSP. At the moment, we haven't looked at that yet. We need to launch the core software as standard at the moment. So that isn't in the not too distant future. It will be looked at in the future, but first our core focus is actually bringing all of the services available to CSP before we start looking at product-specific terms. The only specific things we've started looking at is obviously promotions brought into CSP, which we're going to start trying to launch through all of the programs at the same time. So things like Microsoft 365 is something we're working on at the moment to bring as a promo to CSP, to bring it on par with committed offers in enterprise agreement and things like that. So I suppose committed offers is kind of the legacy way of how we looked at kind of benefiting a customer and giving them a discount associated to how much they're buying. The new way of looking at it is promotion. So if a customer commits to a certain amount of Microsoft 365, there'll be a discount available, and that will be brought through as a promotion on the CSP portal, which we're starting to launch now.
And from SA, any news on that yet?
So at the moment, so it is something we're going to have to look at, to be honest with you. It's something that's being discussed. I think I just got the mic. So I think the question, just for anyone who didn't ask, was when is From SA SKUs coming to CSP? So it is something we're looking at the moment, and if we bring them in a From SA SKU variant, or we look at some other way of obviously accepting that customers made an investment in technology to help them move to CSP, it's something we're looking at the moment, but to be honest with you, you'll probably hear more information when we start to look to retire the other legacy programs, but we will have something to obviously agree that customers made a commitment and then they're obviously moving to a new program. So there will be something, we just don't know if it will be in that format yet. We're just looking at it.
Thank you.
No worries. Any other questions? Yes, I think if we can get the Gazelle over there.
Hi.
Hi.
I just wondered, under the modern commerce changes, what happens to LSPs?
So enterprise agreements aren't going anywhere at the moment. So the LSP is still obviously going to play a key role in the enterprise agreement. As we look to modernise that agreement, obviously the role of an LSP takes will change slightly. And I think that's no shock to any LSP in the room. You guys have already started that journey to actually start developing. I think the key here is it's just a shift from just a resale motion to more the value added resale section. But for the time being, enterprise agreements aren't going anywhere. They're just being modernised.
Okay, but you expect everyone to become a CSP in the end?
Not just CSP, because enterprise, like I say, enterprise agreements aren't going to go anywhere. What we want is people to be not just a CSP, but a value-added partner. So we want them to actually stretch across all three of those programs, not just CSP. CSP is very good because it kind of naturally allows people to be value-added partners because you manage that relationship. But as we look to kind of modernise DPI, as we have started to do in enterprise agreements recently, we kind of want that to be a value add across all three of the programs rather than just CSP.